So my name is also Mark. My wife, Lisa, and I live in a rural part of the state of Vermont, in a town of about 1,000 people at the end of a dirt road. And I would say my journey to that place and to the work that we're doing there has been primarily a journey of responding to a love that's far greater than I could ever imagine. I love that image that Brenda just gave of saying yes. Because contemplation, as I've understood it, first has been an encounter with that love, and then an attempt, in my case, a very partial attempt, and a very fleeting attempt at first, to open to that reality, and to allow that reality in. For myself, that began with a context, a monastic context of encountering God's presence witnessed in men who understood prayer very deeply in the Benedictine tradition. But within 6 months of discovering contemplative practice within that tradition, I was not invited so much as driven into the wilderness by the Spirit to go to be still and to pray. And I very quickly discovered that my second set of teachers was the book of creation, as the early church would refer to it. So the other living beings that were also bearing silent witness to the presence of God, and were doorways into that love and to that presence. And so my journey, in a sense, has been a journey of recovery of the intimacy that I believe we're all called to as human beings, which is intimacy with God, intimacy with our own hearts, intimacy with one another, and also intimacy with the other than human beings who are also God's beloveds and make up the rest of the web of creation, an inheritance that we've been given, and then we've also largely been denied in a culture that treats these other beings as objects. So for me, the spiritual journey has been a parallel of trying to open to that presence of God that transcends all things, and also to the presence of God that is immanent in all things. And I guess if I could give a definition of contemplation, maybe not a definition, maybe a story. There was a time in my 20s where, again, being driven to a desert place. I spent a year living as a hermit in a community that was based on the desert mothers and fathers. Not in a place of my preference. I'm much more drawn to the wet wildlands in a place like Minnesota than I am to the desert of South Texas where I was staying. But in that desert, I went through an inner desert, a period of several months where I felt like I really couldn't pray. At least nothing that I understood or felt as prayer was happening. And I was in a silent community where my spiritual director had told me to sit down and pray in silence for 4 to 5 hours a day. So I sat down for 4 to 5 hours a day and felt like I was failing for 4 to 5 hours a day, with just no sense of prayer that could come from my own will, from my own intention, just as dry as the Texas dirt that was clinging to my feet as I'd walk. And then there was a day when I sat down, again, not able to pray, and taking advice of another person that was there on extended retreat. Just started, here's my prayer, God, I can't do it very well, but I'm going to show up. And in that period of silence, what began to emerge was a prayer that came from within my heart, but wasn't me, that passed to the heart of God beyond me, that also wasn't me, that was then being returned in a movement of love from the transcendent presence of God back to this mystery dwelling within my heart, in this sort of cycle of breathing, almost from what was within me to what was beyond me. And I wasn't doing it, but I was dropped into the dance. And over the next few months, I not only experienced that dropping into the dance repeatedly, I also began to see that dance at work in others and in the landscape, to just view this sort of movement from this radiant immanence in form into the transcendent depths and returning back, the sort of breathing in and out, we might even say the heartbeat of God. And so contemplation is not so much something we do as dying into that dance of love.